nobody and nothing will affect you again. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. At Spiritual Wisdom, we believe that true peace begins the moment you stop giving the outside world the power to control your inner state. In today's video, we explore a powerful truth. Nothing and no one can affect you unless you let them. When you understand the roots of your emotional reactions and learn to master them, you reclaim your energy, your joy, and your freedom. Imagine a life where your peace is unshakable, no matter who walks in or out, no matter what chaos surrounds you. That life is possible, and it begins with awareness. As you watch, reflect on this. What triggers still have power over you, and are they truly yours to carry? Comment below with your thoughts, or share how you've started reclaiming your inner power. Let's grow together. 1. Nothing can affect you unless it finds a wound inside you. Nothing can truly affect you unless it finds something unhealed within you. This truth, echoed by Carl Jung, reveals that the world outside you holds no real power unless your inner world allows it. When someone insults you and it hits a nerve, it's not because their words have magical force. It's because a part of you believes it might be true. Emotional pain doesn't arise from the comment itself. It's the inner wound that reacts. That's where the work begins. People often live like emotional puppets, pulled by strings they can't see. A strange look, a cold tone, a careless word suddenly. The day is ruined. But why? Because deep within, there's something unresolved, waiting to be acknowledged. Carl Jung taught that most of our suffering comes not from the event itself, but from our resistance to the message it carries. Every trigger is an arrow, pointing to a part of us that's still asking to be healed. There's a silent freedom in realizing this. Because once you understand that nothing external has power over you unless it resonates with something internal, you stop being a victim of circumstance. You start becoming the observer. And in that space, transformation begins. You no longer react out of old pain. You respond from present awareness. That's the essence of spiritual wisdom, turning emotional chaos into clarity by listening deeply to what your inner world is trying to say. Take the story of a young man named Daniel. At work, a supervisor once accused him of being unreliable. Just a few years earlier, those words would have shattered him. He would have gone home drowning in self-doubt, replaying the moment over and over. But Daniel had done the work. He had faced the root of that insecurity, which stemmed from a father who never kept promises and made him feel like he didn't matter. So this time, instead of spiraling, he paused. He checked in with himself and realized, this isn't about me. It's their projection, and I don't have to carry it. He responded with calm and walked away with his peace intact. Carl Jung often spoke of the shadow, the part of us we don't want to see. But when we ignore it, we give it power. When we face it, we reclaim that power. That's why someone can be insulted and feel nothing, while another person hears the same words and crumbles. The difference isn't in the insult, it's in the wound. Until the wound is healed, we keep reacting as if we're still bleeding. Healing doesn't mean you won't ever feel discomfort again. It means discomfort won't control you. You become aware. You begin to witness your reactions with curiosity instead of judgment. You ask yourself, why did that hurt me? Instead of blaming others for your pain. And slowly, layer by layer, the wound loses its grip. You become grounded. You become whole. Emotional mastery isn't about becoming cold or indifferent. It's about being so deeply rooted in self-awareness that chaos can't pull you out of alignment. The goal isn't to avoid conflict, but to rise above it, not in arrogance, but in calm understanding. That's when nobody and nothing can affect you, not because the world changed, but because you did. Have you ever paused to ask yourself why something affected you so deeply? If this video helped you uncover a hidden wound or brought clarity to an emotional trigger, share your experience in the comments below. Your story might help someone else heal too. And if you're ready to face your inner truth, comment, "I'm ready to heal," to begin this powerful journey of self-discovery. 2. Emotional mastery begins with self-awareness. Carl Jung taught that making the unconscious conscious is the path to self-mastery. Most people move through life unaware of the inner forces controlling their emotions. They think the world is doing something to them, but in truth, life is only reflecting what's already within. Reactions don't come from outside circumstances. They come from the unresolved parts of us. If someone ignores you and it triggers anger, it's not their behavior that holds the power. It's the hidden wound inside you that feels unworthy, unseen, or dismissed. Once you realize this, you stop giving your power away. True emotional mastery begins with self-awareness. The moment you recognize your reactions are mirrors, not attacks, you begin reclaiming your strength. You are no longer tossed around by every insult, delay, or inconvenience. You become the observer of your inner world. You begin to ask, why am I reacting this way? What part of me is being touched right now? This act of mindful observation breaks the cycle of automatic emotional responses. Instead of reacting from pain, you begin responding from awareness. That space between stimulus and response becomes sacred. It is where spiritual wisdom lives. Spiritual wisdom teaches us that the things that trigger us the most are the greatest opportunities for growth. Someone might disrespect you, and in that moment, your ego wants to fight back, to defend itself. But if you pause, if you watch the reaction rise without immediately obeying it, you begin to see the deeper truth. That person is not your enemy. The reaction is not a curse. It's a compass, pointing to an area in your soul that is asking to be healed. The more you observe, the more you learn. The more you learn, the less power the world has over you. Emotional freedom doesn't mean you never feel. It means you are no longer ruled by what you feel. You experience anger, but it doesn't control you. You feel fear, but it doesn't define you. You face discomfort, but you no longer run from it. You understand that all emotions are messengers, not masters. They come to teach, not to trap. This shift transforms your inner world. The chaos around you may continue, but you remain grounded, clear, and steady. The modern world thrives on reactivity. Social media, traffic, news cycles, they all invite you to be triggered, to be outraged, to be unsettled. But the one who has mastered themselves does not react out of habit. They respond from presence. This presence creates peace that no one can steal. That is the mark of true strength. And it all begins with the quiet decision to observe your emotions instead of becoming them. This is not avoidance, it is awakening. It is remembering that nothing and no one can affect you unless you let them. The storm may rage around you, but the stillness within becomes your power. If you're ready to reclaim your power through self-awareness, comment below. I choose mindful mastery. 3. Shadow work is the key to inner freedom. Shadow work means turning inward to face the uncomfortable truths we've buried: our fears, our shame, our suppressed emotions, and the parts of ourselves we've rejected in order to be accepted. It is not a trend or surface-level practice. It is the heart of deep transformation and true spiritual awakening. Every time you feel offended, triggered, or emotionally unsettled, something within you is being revealed not by the world, but by your own unresolved wounds. As Carl Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. These emotional reactions are not coincidences. They are sacred mirrors showing you what still needs your love, your attention, and your healing. When someone disrespects you and it stings, the pain isn't just about them. The reaction comes from a deeper place inside you, perhaps a childhood memory of being ignored, unworthy, or unseen. If you didn't believe it on some level, it wouldn't land so heavily. That's the shadow calling. It hides in your reactions, waiting to be acknowledged. The truth is, nothing external has the power to affect you unless it finds resonance within. The moment you stop blaming the world and start learning from your emotions, you shift from victimhood to inner power. That's the beginning of real freedom. Growth happens when you pause, look within, and ask, why did this upset me? What belief about myself does this touch? That simple curiosity becomes a door to spiritual wisdom. In that space, you stop playing defense and start building awareness. The more you bring light to the unconscious, the less it controls you. That's how you become untouchable, not because life stops being difficult, but because your inner world stops being dictated by chaos. You respond instead of react. You choose instead of collapse. Shadow work also reveals your hidden gifts. The same place that holds your wounds also stores your suppressed genius. Many people fear their anger or sadness, but these emotions, when understood, can become sacred fuel for your creativity, boundaries, and authenticity. Jung taught that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Real light work begins in the shadows, not in bypassing pain, but in walking directly through it with courage. This journey is not easy, but it is necessary. You reclaim lost parts of yourself and step out of unconscious patterns. You stop being emotionally manipulated by others because their actions no longer determine your worth. You see clearly. You speak truthfully. You stand firmly in your center. No one and nothing can control a person who has faced their own inner darkness and chosen to rise. That is the essence of spiritual awakening, the merging of shadow and soul into one integrated self. If you're ready to break free from old wounds and embrace your true self through shadow work, don't hesitate to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's heal, grow, and rise together. 4. Letting go of control makes you powerful. The more tightly you cling to control of people, situations, or outcomes, the more you unknowingly drain your own power. It's a paradox most people live in, believing that control equals strength, when in truth, it signals fear. The fear of being ignored, misunderstood, or abandoned often drives the need to shape how others behave or how events unfold. But the moment you release that need is the moment you rise above the chaos. Carl Jung taught that the external world is merely a mirror reflecting the unresolved parts within us. If you find yourself needing constant validation or respect, It means there's a hidden wound inside still questioning your worth. When your peace depends on how others treat you, you've handed your power over to them. It's like being on an emotional leash. Your joy and confidence pulled in every direction by someone else's actions or approval. But imagine not needing their applause. Imagine being so rooted in your own inner knowing that silence doesn't threaten you, rejection doesn't shatter you, and misunderstanding doesn't disturb your calm. This isn't about being emotionally numb, it's about being emotionally free. Think of someone you know who radiates unshakable presence. They don't argue to prove a point. They don't chase after attention. And yet, their energy commands respect. That's the kind of strength that's born not from force, but from surrender. When you let go of needing things to go your way, you begin to see clearly. You stop reacting. You start choosing. And that's when you begin to embody real power, the kind that Carl Jung referred to as the mastery of the self. True strength lies in spiritual maturity. It's the quiet courage to trust the timing of your life, to know that everything you need is already within you, and to release the illusion that control gives you safety. The one who no longer needs to control is the one who can influence deeply. They don't demand, they inspire. They don't chase, they attract. That's the beauty of letting go. You stop being a prisoner to every situation. You stop being triggered by every opinion. And instead, you begin to observe, respond, and stay centered no matter what storms rage around you. This is where spiritual awakening begins. When you no longer seek peace outside of yourself, you awaken to the truth that nothing can touch you unless you allow it. You begin to see clearly. You are not here to dominate life, but to align with it. And in that alignment, you become a force that is both grounded and untouchable. Letting go is not weakness. It is wisdom. The kind of wisdom that Carl Jung devoted his life to revealing, that your inner world shapes your outer reality. So, as you release your grip on control, what you gain is far greater: peace, clarity, and the unshakable power of your authentic self. Do you feel the shift within you? If this message speaks to your soul, affirm it in the comments. I let go of control and step into my true power. 5. Perception shapes your entire reality. Reality itself carries no inherent meaning. It is your perception that shapes it. As Carl Jung said, it all depends on how we look at things and not how they are in themselves. The same situation can either break someone or awaken them. What makes the difference is not the event, but the internal lens through which it is interpreted. This is the heart of spiritual wisdom, the understanding that your inner world gives birth to your outer experience. Two people can walk through the same storm, and yet one feels crushed while the other feels cleansed. One sees the darkness as punishment, the other sees it as preparation. The storm doesn't choose, it simply is. But the mind filters, distorts, amplifies. It draws meaning based on wounds, beliefs, and unresolved emotions. And because of that, your perception becomes your prison or your liberation. When you shift your perception, life shifts with you, not because life changed, but because you did. There was a woman named Maya who got fired from her job. At first, her thoughts spiraled into fear. I'm worthless. I failed. But as the days passed, something deeper stirred. She began to question those thoughts, and in that questioning, a new path opened. What once looked like loss became redirection. She pursued her long-forgotten love for holistic healing, and launched her own practice. Nothing in the external world changed overnight, but her perception transformed her pain into purpose. Spiritual awakening is exactly this: the reclaiming of your interpretive power. When you stop reacting and start observing, you step into a higher frequency of consciousness. Someone ignores you? You don't spiral, you reflect. A door closes? You don't collapse, you stay curious. This is mastery. This is the space where nothing can affect you unless it finds something unhealed within you to attach to. If it doesn't resonate with a wound inside you, it passes right through you, like wind through an open window. The deeper your awareness grows, the more you realize that peace is not given by the world, it is built within you. And once you build it, the world can no longer take it. You begin to see life not as a series of attacks, but as a mirror reflecting your inner state. In every delay, you find alignment. In every rejection, you see redirection. In every loss, you recognize expansion. This is the wisdom that turns ordinary experiences into sacred lessons. Because when you understand that perception creates reality, you stop blaming the world and start reprogramming your lens. You choose faith over fear, meaning over confusion, growth over stagnation. And that is when nothing and no one can disturb your peace, not because life became easier, but because your spirit became stronger. If this message opened your eyes to the power of perception, leave a comment of clarity. I choose to see with wisdom. My reality is shaped by my mindset. 6. You are not your emotions. You are the observer. Emotional detachment is not numbness. It's the clarity that arises when you realize you are not the storm, but the sky. You are not the emotion, but the awareness witnessing it. Like clouds drifting across an open sky, emotions come and go, but your essence remains untouched. Most people live in constant reaction, tossed around by every emotional gust. But in the moment you pause and observe, instead of reacting, you awaken a deeper power within. That power is awareness, the space where spiritual awakening begins. Carl Jung taught that what we fail to make conscious will rule our lives. If anger, fear, or sadness controls you, it's not because they are stronger, it's because you've mistaken them for who you are. But you are not your fear. You are the one who notices it. You are not your sadness. You are the one who feels its presence without being consumed. The moment you step back and witness the emotion instead of becoming it, you shift from chaos to consciousness. In that moment, there is no longer just a reaction, there is a choice. This space between stimulus and response is where transformation happens. It is the most sacred space in your inner world, where the noise quiets and clarity emerges. In that stillness, you begin to see why certain emotions arise. You understand that someone's words did not make you angry, your old wound did. You realize that fear didn't just appear. It was summoned by your mind's attachment to control. These insights don't come from thinking harder. They come from seeing clearer. And seeing clearly is the fruit of awareness. Spiritual awakening is not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of it. You do not suppress your feelings. You allow them to pass through you like wind through the trees. You no longer identify with every surge of energy in your body. Instead, you become a steady witness, a grounded presence. Over time, this witnessing becomes your strength. You feel deeply, but you do not drown. You love fiercely, but you are not undone by loss. You embrace joy, but you are not addicted to its presence. This is emotional freedom. To live like this is not to disconnect from life. It is to be more fully alive. It is to walk through chaos with grace, to hear criticism without collapsing, to feel triggered and still choose peace. You are not here to be controlled by emotion, but to learn from it. Every time you choose awareness over reactivity, you become more of who you truly are. Calm, conscious, unshaken. And that is the real power of spiritual wisdom. If this message helped shift your perspective, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your reflections in the comments below. Let's continue exploring the power of awareness and emotional clarity together. 7. When you stop reacting, the world starts responding. When you stop reacting, everything around you begins to change. People no longer push your buttons because they realize those buttons no longer work. This isn't about becoming cold or indifferent. It's about mastering yourself so deeply that chaos loses its grip on you. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." When you stop being emotionally hijacked by the outside world, you begin to live from the inside out. Your power comes from within, not from how much control you have over others, but from how much clarity you have within yourself. That quiet power, what some call an untouchable energy, is the result of inner work, not outer manipulation. You stop needing to prove anything. You stop chasing validation. You begin responding instead of reacting, and that's where true peace lives. Most people are reactive by habit. They let a rude comment, a disappointing text, or an unexpected event ruin their day. But when you've done the inner work, when you've faced your shadows, healed your wounds, and stood in your own truth, those same situations lose their power over you. You become calm, composed, and centered, not because the world is perfect, but because you are no longer controlled by it. There was a man who used to flare up at every inconvenience, traffic, emails, people interrupting his plans. One day, he came across Carl Jung's teachings on projection. He realized that his frustration wasn't about the world, but about the parts of himself he hadn't yet accepted. So he stopped blaming and started observing. Slowly, he began to reclaim his energy. The world didn't stop being chaotic, but it stopped stealing his peace. That's the moment he understood. It's not about changing the world. It's about changing how you meet the world. The moment you stop reacting emotionally, others sense the shift. Those who once tried to control or manipulate you fall silent. They can no longer access your energy because you're no longer offering it freely. People begin to respect your silence. Your calmness becomes intimidating, not because you are cold, but because your boundaries are no longer negotiable. You've reached a place where inner stillness speaks louder than words. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to fight for space. Your presence commands it naturally. Carl Jung taught that the unconscious rules our lives until we make it conscious. So every time you catch yourself about to react, pause. Ask, what inside me feels threatened? That question alone can reroute your entire day. And the more you practice this, the more you shift into true alignment. This is what spiritual awakening looks like. Not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of it. You no longer live on autopilot. You live on purpose. Eventually, you realize that the less you react, the more life responds. Not from fear, not from urgency, but from grace. Your emotional sovereignty becomes your shield. Your stillness becomes your wisdom. And that is when you understand the true power of self-possession. If this message resonates with your journey toward inner power, declare it in the comments. I respond from strength, not reaction. And if you're ready to keep rising above the noise, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. More wisdom is waiting for you. And remember this: the moment you stop allowing the outside world to control your inner world is the moment you reclaim your true power. As Carl Jung said, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." Let this be your awakening. If this message has brought clarity or peace to your heart, don't forget to like, share this video with someone who needs it, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom for more powerful insights. Be sure to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment of deep spiritual awakening. Your journey to unshakable peace has only just begun. Carl Jung, How to be Genuinely Authentic, Jungian Philosophy. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Carl Jung. Welcome to Spiritual Wisdom, where we dive deep into timeless insights that awaken the soul. In today's video, we'll explore what it truly means to be genuinely authentic through the powerful lens of Jungian philosophy. In a world full of noise, expectations, and masks, discovering your authentic self is not just a path to personal growth, it's the key to lasting happiness and inner peace. As you listen, reflect on this. Are you living as who you truly are, or who the world told you to be? If this message speaks to you, comment below. I choose to live authentically. Don't forget to like, share, and let us know how you're applying these truths in your own journey. 1. Jung and Analytical Psychology. Carl Jung, a Swiss psychiatrist, stood alongside Sigmund Freud and Alfred Adler as one of the founding fathers of psychoanalysis. However, as their paths evolved, Jung broke away from Freud's limited focus on sexuality and childhood experience, paving the way for his own school of thought, analytical psychology. This unique framework blended not only psychology, but also anthropology, philosophy, religion, mythology, and the arts. It was through this holistic lens that Jung sought to understand the human soul, not merely as a collection of symptoms, but as a living, evolving system of energy and meaning. At the heart of Jung's theory lies the concept of the psyche, a totality that includes both the conscious and unconscious aspects of the self. The conscious mind is governed by the ego, which shapes our identity, our sense of I, and our immediate awareness. But Jung warned that when we over-identify with the ego, we risk becoming disconnected from the deeper layers of who we are. The ego is not the entirety of the self. It is simply the manager of waking life, while the vast and mysterious unconscious lies beneath, shaping much of our behavior, instincts, and emotional patterns without our awareness. This unconscious realm is divided further. First, there is the personal unconscious, which contains forgotten memories, repressed emotions, and the remnants of personal experiences. But deeper still is the collective unconscious one of Jung's most revolutionary ideas. It is a shared reservoir of ancestral memory, universal symbols, and archetypal patterns that exist in every human being, regardless of culture or history. It is from this space that myths emerge, dreams are born, and inner transformation becomes possible. Spiritual wisdom, as Jung revealed, is not confined to religious doctrine. It is encoded in the very architecture of our psyche. He believed that the path to wholeness, what he called individuation, could only occur when we become conscious of the unconscious. This process requires more than intellectual understanding. It demands deep inner work, paying attention to dreams, confronting our shadows, and integrating the parts of ourselves we've been taught to hide. True authenticity, then, is not the product of external validation or performance. It is the result of becoming whole from within. Jung's approach invites us to stop striving to be someone we are not and start uncovering who we already are. The journey is not one of achievement, but of remembrance, of reuniting with the forgotten aspects of our being, reclaiming the lost voices within us, and listening to the symbolic language of the soul. Through this integration, we align not only with our inner truth, but also with the universal forces that move through all of life. In this way, spiritual wisdom becomes the compass that guides us not toward perfection, but toward presence, meaning, and deep-rooted authenticity. Are you ready to explore the depths of your own psyche and unlock the power within? If this journey into Jung's analytical psychology inspires you, comment below. I embrace the inner journey to affirm your path. 2. The psyche and the unconscious. The ego, according to Carl Jung, is the center of our consciousness, the part of us that makes decisions, organizes daily life, and holds our sense of identity. But as vital as the ego is, it's only a small piece of the psyche. It's the part we're aware of, yet it can't contain the full complexity of who we are. To live with genuine authenticity, we must go deeper. Jung believed that true growth begins when we confront the unconscious, the vast inner world beneath our conscious awareness. Jung divided the unconscious into two parts. The first is the personal unconscious. This is where forgotten memories, repressed emotions, and past experiences live. It's deeply personal, shaped by everything we've lived through, but tried to ignore disappointments we never processed, emotions we've buried, and parts of ourselves we've denied because they didn't seem acceptable. When we don't face the personal unconscious, it quietly influences our behavior, creating patterns we can't explain. Beneath this is an even more profound layer, the collective unconscious. Unlike the personal unconscious, this one isn't shaped by our individual experiences, but by humanity's shared experience. It holds archetypes, universal patterns of behavior and symbol, such as the hero, the mother, the outcast, the mentor, the trickster. These patterns shape our stories, dreams, and even our roles in life. They appear in myths, fairy tales, and films across every culture because they are embedded in the human soul. You don't invent these roles. You inherit them. They live within you and act through you unless you become aware of them. Think of someone caught in the archetype of the savior, always trying to fix others, even at the cost of their own well-being. Or the victim, believing they're powerless, reliving the same story of betrayal and hurt over and over again. Unless we bring these unconscious roles into the light, we remain trapped in scripts we didn't write, but continue to perform. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That's not just poetic. It's a practical truth. We often think we're making choices freely, when in reality, we're repeating patterns inherited from childhood, culture, or collective memory. A woman who always falls for emotionally unavailable partners might not realize she's chasing an unresolved relationship with her distant father. A man who sabotages every opportunity may be unconsciously playing out a fear of success passed down through generations of family struggle. To be genuinely authentic, we must begin the inner work of exploration. That means tuning into your dreams, observing your triggers, reflecting on what draws you in and what repels you. It means noticing when your emotions are louder than the moment calls for, and asking where that intensity really comes from. It's the process Jung called individuation, the path of becoming a whole, integrated being, not perfect, but whole. Authenticity isn't about always knowing who you are. It's about having the courage to meet yourself at every level. It's understanding that your ego isn't the enemy, but it's not the full story either. You are more than what you say, what you post, or what you show to others. You are also your fears, your desires, your memories, and your inherited symbols. Only by bringing them into consciousness can you live a life that is truly your own. This is the essence of Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom. That authenticity comes not from performing a role, but from integrating the unseen parts of the self. And when you do that, when you dare to know yourself fully, you no longer walk through life as a stranger to your own soul. If you're ready to explore the hidden depths of your psyche and unlock the power of your unconscious mind, comment below. I embrace my inner truth. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss a journey into deeper spiritual wisdom. Three, individuation, the path to authenticity. True authenticity begins not on the outside, but within. In a world that often pressures you to conform, to meet others' expectations, or to wear masks for acceptance, the deepest truth lies in understanding your own inner life. Carl Jung believed that the journey to becoming truly yourself, fully real and whole, was through the process he called individuation. This isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you've always been beneath the layers. Individuation is the path of integrating both the conscious and unconscious parts of your psyche, uniting the light with the shadow, the known with the hidden. It is through this merging that you become whole, not perfect, but authentic. This path requires courage. It means facing your repressed emotions, long-forgotten memories, and the darker aspects of your personality that you might have been taught to fear or reject. Yet these are not enemies. They are messengers. Each one holds a piece of your truth. Jung's wisdom teaches that if we do not make the unconscious conscious, it will rule our lives, and we will call it fate. Many people drift through life feeling disconnected, anxious, or unfulfilled, without realizing that their soul is crying out for alignment. That cry is often the first whisper of a spiritual awakening, an invitation to begin the sacred journey home to yourself. Individuation is not a one-time event. It's a lifelong process of self-discovery and inner reconciliation. It often begins when life shakes you through loss, heartbreak, burnout, or a deep sense of dissatisfaction that no external success can soothe. These experiences crack the surface and allow what's been buried to rise. Through reflection, journaling, meditation, or dream work, fragments of your deeper self begin to emerge. Symbols, intuitions, and patterns point you inward. The more you engage with this process, the clearer your inner compass becomes. You begin to realize that real power comes not from control, but from integration from becoming aware of all that you are and choosing to live in truth. Living authentically means your outer life begins to reflect your inner reality. You stop seeking permission to exist. You stop hiding your wounds, and instead, you honor them as sacred teachers. You no longer shrink to fit into spaces that demand your silence. You speak with clarity, move with purpose, and align your choices with your soul's voice. This is not the loud confidence of ego, but the quiet, unshakable knowing of someone who has made peace within. And yet, the process is deeply personal. No two journeys are the same, because no two souls are the same. What matters is that you stay committed to your truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Spiritual awakening is not always blissful. Often, it's disruptive. But that disruption is sacred. It breaks illusions and calls you to live with intention. Through individuation, you don't just uncover your purpose, you embody it. You don't just understand who you are, you become who you are meant to be, fully and freely. If this message spoke to your soul, leave a like, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment of growth and truth. Comment below, "I am becoming whole," to affirm your journey toward true authenticity. 4. The 4 Jungian archetypes, essential to individuation. 4.1. The persona. The persona is the social mask you wear to navigate the expectations of the world around you. It allows you to play your part to be the polite coworker, the reliable friend, the respectful child. But this mask, while functional, can quietly become a prison. When you begin to believe that your persona is your true identity, you lose touch with who you really are beneath the surface. This is what Carl Jung warned about: over-identification with the persona, a psychological condition where you become trapped in a role and forget the authentic self that exists behind the performance. You might notice this when burnout creeps in, or when anxiety rises without an obvious cause. These are signs that your internal world is no longer in harmony with the image you're projecting. The collapse of the persona, though painful, is not a failure. It is an opportunity, a moment of spiritual awakening. When the mask shatters, it reveals the deeper self that has long been silenced. And that self is not weak or chaotic, it is whole, waiting to be acknowledged and reintegrated. Healing doesn't mean removing the persona entirely. Jung's spiritual wisdom teaches us that the goal is not to become raw or defenseless, but to wear a more honest mask, one that reflects, rather than conceals, your truth. You become someone who moves through the world with awareness, someone who speaks and acts in alignment with the soul. You stop asking, "What should I be?" and start asking, "What part of me needs to be expressed right now?" in a way that honors both myself and others. To begin this process, start observing when your social behavior feels authentic and when it feels like performance. Are you laughing because you're genuinely amused, or because silence feels awkward? Are you agreeing to something because it feels right, or because you fear rejection? These questions are not meant to shame, but to awaken. They help you gradually loosen the grip of the persona and reconnect with your intuitive core. This is the essence of a flexible persona, one that doesn't hide the soul, but translates it. It is an instrument of connection rather than protection. And through this conscious adjustment, you reclaim a sense of inner freedom. You no longer serve your persona. It begins to serve you. In doing so, you embody spiritual wisdom, the art of living in truth while participating in the world with grace. By aligning the outer self with the inner essence, you discover a new level of strength, not the brittle strength of pretense, but the quiet power of authenticity. The persona no longer defines you. It becomes a tool you use with intention. And in that space, you begin to live, not as a reflection of what others expect, but as a radiant expression of your true self. If this message has resonated with your journey, repeat after me. I am ready to take off the mask and reconnect with my true self. 4.2. The shadow. The shadow, in Carl Jung's profound understanding of the psyche, represents the parts of ourselves we've been conditioned to hide: anger, envy, shame, insecurity, resentment. These aren't just emotions we feel and forget. They're traits we push deep into our unconscious because society has taught us they're unacceptable. But what we suppress does not vanish. It festers, leaks, and shows up in moments we least expect through emotional outbursts, passive aggression, guilt, harsh judgments, or inner turmoil that seems to have no cause. The real danger lies in ignoring it. Jung warns, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. This is spiritual wisdom in action. Awareness is the first step to transformation. Facing the shadow is not the same as identifying with it. Jung never advocated for indulging our darkness, but rather for confronting it honestly. When you deny your shadow, it controls you from behind the scenes. But when you recognize it, you gain the power to choose how to respond. It's not about labeling yourself as a bad person for having dark thoughts or emotions. It's about meeting those parts with responsibility and clarity. This process is the essence of inner work and emotional maturity. A modern example illustrates this well. A woman in her 30s, outwardly successful and respected in her field, noticed how often she snapped at her colleagues during stressful moments. For years, she told herself it was just pressure or fatigue. But underneath, through deep reflection, she realized she carried a fear of being seen as weak. That fear turned into control and defensiveness. Once she understood this, she didn't just become nicer, she became more whole. She acknowledged the part of herself that was scared and learned to comfort it instead of suppressing it. This is what Carl Jung meant by integrating the shadow. Integration is not about perfection. It's about wholeness. It means being able to sit with discomfort and say, yes, this is part of me, but it doesn't define me. That acceptance creates real inner peace. When we reclaim the parts we've disowned, we stop projecting them onto others. We become less reactive, less judgmental, and more grounded in truth. Shadow work is not a detour from personal growth. It is the path itself. The journey of individuation, as Jung called it, requires courage. To truly evolve, we must stop hiding from ourselves. The more deeply we understand our shadow, the more authentic our light becomes. And when our authenticity is rooted in self-awareness, not performance, we gain spiritual freedom. This is the power of Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom. You are not here to be flawless. You are here to be whole. Have you ever consciously faced your shadow, the hidden parts of yourself that society told you to ignore? If so, share your story in the comments and let others learn from your courage. If not, type, "I will face my shadow" below and take the first step toward true self-acceptance and inner freedom. 4.3. The Thema Animus. Carl Jung believed that within every individual lives a contrasexual archetype, the anima in men, representing the inner feminine, and the animus in women, representing the inner masculine. These forces are not optional parts of who you are. They are essential energies that shape your inner life and relationships. Yet because of societal expectations and gender norms, these archetypes are often suppressed. Men are discouraged from expressing vulnerability or emotion, while women are taught to soften their assertiveness or leadership. Over time, this rejection of one's inner counterpart leads to imbalance, confusion, and disconnection from the true self. Jungian psychology teaches that spiritual awakening begins when you stop rejecting these inner energies and begin to consciously integrate them. For a man, that may mean allowing space for sensitivity, receptivity, and emotional expression qualities often associated with the anima. For a woman, it might involve embracing independence, decisiveness, and clarity of thought traits embodied by the animus. This is not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming whole. When the masculine and feminine are allowed to coexist within, they form a balanced inner union that brings harmony, confidence, and a deeper understanding of who you are. Integration transforms not only your internal world, but your relationships as well. You stop projecting unmet needs onto others, and instead become aware of the ways you've disowned parts of yourself. You begin to see your partner, your friends, even your enemies, as reflections of your inner dynamics. Every emotional trigger becomes an opportunity to meet a forgotten aspect of your psyche. As this integration deepens, you become more self-aware, less reactive, and more compassionate toward both yourself and others. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Embracing your anima or animus is a sacred step on that journey. It is a rite of inner reconciliation that opens the doorway to spiritual wisdom and a more authentic life. By learning to trust your emotional instincts or assert your truth without guilt, you restore the balance that society may have taken from you. And through this balance, you rise not by denying your nature, but by uniting its polarities. This is the essence of spiritual awakening: to become conscious of what you've hidden, to honor what you've rejected, and to live in alignment with your whole self. If this message resonated with your soul, leave a comment of reflection. I embrace both the masculine and feminine within me. Let this be your declaration of inner harmony. And if this journey toward wholeness speaks to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you won't miss what's coming next. 4.4. The Self. The Self, in Jungian psychology, is the totality of who you are, your conscious mind, and your vast unconscious depths combined into one integrated whole. It's not just an idea, but a living force within you that seeks harmony, wholeness, and truth. Jung symbolized the self with the mandala, a circular form that represents balance, unity, and spiritual centering. Just as mandalas appear across sacred traditions to depict the cosmos or the divine, they also reflect the internal order we are meant to discover within. The self cannot be fully possessed by the ego. It is too expansive, too profound. But by expanding our awareness, we allow the ego to move closer to this wholeness, to reflect more of its brilliance and guidance in daily life. To awaken the self, one must confront and integrate several layers of the psyche. The first is the persona, the social mask we wear to meet expectations and belong. It protects us, but it also limits us. Beneath it lies the shadow, the part of ourselves we deny, repress, or fear. It holds our guilt, anger, envy, but also our creativity, strength, and raw truth. Facing the shadow is not about judgment. It's about reclaiming parts of ourselves we've left behind. Then comes the anima or animus, our inner opposite. The anima is the feminine soul within men. The animus is the masculine spirit within women. These energies carry deep emotional power and symbolic wisdom, guiding us towards psychological and emotional balance. This process is called individuation, the journey of becoming whole. It's not a linear path, but a spiral inward, peeling away false layers, integrating opposites, and becoming more fully yourself. As you move through this transformation, spiritual wisdom becomes embodied. You no longer seek validation outside. Instead, you draw from the well of authenticity within. The self is no longer just a concept. It becomes a lived reality that infuses your actions with meaning and your presence with depth. When you live in connection with the self, you don't become perfect. You become whole. You gain the ability to hold contradictions without breaking, to walk through chaos without losing center. You begin to experience a form of spiritual freedom that comes not from escape, but from alignment. The patterns that once repeated emotional reactions, toxic relationships, self-sabotaging behaviors begin to dissolve because you are no longer unconsciously driven. You are aware. You are present. You are connected. This is what it means to unlock your true potential. Not to become someone else, but to return to yourself fully, fiercely, with love and clarity. The self doesn't demand that you transcend life. It asks you to enter it more deeply, with your soul intact. To affirm your commitment to becoming whole, declare it today. Comment below, "I choose to become my true self," to honor your journey toward inner integration and spiritual freedom, and inspire others to do the same. True authenticity isn't about being perfect. It's about being real, being aware, and being aligned with your inner truth. As Carl Jung taught, the path to genuine authenticity begins when we stop pretending and start integrating every part of who we are, light and shadow alike. If this message resonated with you, we invite you to take it to heart and apply it in your own life. If you found value in today's journey through Jungian philosophy, please don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who might need this wisdom, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Also, make sure to turn on notifications so you never miss our upcoming videos filled with timeless truths for your soul's awakening. Stay true, stay conscious, and keep walking the path of spiritual wisdom.